I didn't send you that, by the way, Freddie. I just want you to know.
Oh, you didn't? That was a
Yeah.
phishing thing? There was like a phishing thing that came through, and it was from like DeLuca C at iCloud. The title of it was like, "Are we going to talk about this? The penis operation gone wrong?" This is super sophisticated phishing if it really wasn't Krista.
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. What's up, bitches? We have a lot to talk about. First of all, we're doing a little bit of a different format. We're not together like we normally do, but maybe that's better. We haven't done a ZFG in like, I don't know, a month. So there's lots to talk about. Rate cuts in 2024. Tiger Global closed at 63%. California could become the first state in the U.S. to give workers the right to ignore after hours and emails from employers. I'm moving back to California.
You're fired.
Israel versus Iran.
Let's kick it off with the criminals using the encrypted phones.
This is pretty groundbreaking. I've been listening to this BBC podcast the last week. There was kind of a messaging and a phone app that was being used predominantly by criminals. It was super encrypted, like really, really high level, like world-class encryption. It was about $1,500 for the handset, and then I think it was a subscription annually of about $1,500. So it's pretty pricey. And for a long time, criminals were using this to like free abandon. They're like, you know, kind of similar to like us messaging like, hey, you know, so-and-so's got a short report out. What do you think of it? These guys were like, yo, some dude just rolled up on my homie. Like, I'm looking to have him whacked. Like that was like the level of conversation here. Unsurprisingly, eventually the encryption did get cracked. What truly shocks me is that it was the French that cracked it. Like, of all the people,
that is actually, I did not
crack it.
Well, I guess I didn't. Wow.
Well, understand, the French are actually very good at math. They are quite big on math, which is why they're huge in financial engineering.
Not the Italians.
You know what? They're okay at math, because every time you like have the trader go away for the summer and he has his like, you know, annual 6-month block leave for the summer, there's always like some SocGen or BNP Paribas, like, you know, oh shit, we didn't model this out properly, and it turns out the thing that's never supposed to happen in like 8 million years happened, and we lost like $4 billion.
No, wait.
So
that does not mean that math failed. Okay, that's the whole point, right? They spin these mathematically beautiful and perfect models to justify taking stupid risk. Like, that's not the failure of math. They're really good at math. They will make these models that tell them they should take the risk. But that's, you know, that doesn't mean that they're real world.
So anyway, so this whole thing's like broken down now. So the law enforcement agencies had like a few months where they were just listening in, watching people ordering hits. They found some guy in the UK who'd smuggled like 6 tons of cocaine, which, I don't know about you, but that seems like a lot.
How much?
And 6 tons.
6 tons.
Yeah, that's more than you used
I know.
last weekend,
That's what
like
I was thinking.
real. I mean, that's probably more than you were using in a solid weekend back in your Citigroup days in the 80s.
That was in the 90s,
like,
but yes, you might be right.
You know, I was thinking, it's obviously not good enough for drug dealers anymore, but what about picking it up for financial professionals now that the SEC has got super hard on all these messaging apps? And just today, it turns out that the SEC in their wisdom are disallowing employees from having WhatsApp on their work phones at the SEC. Now, I think the bigger threat to the SEC, given how much they like to watch porn, is the SEC's office in Texas, because Texas has very recently instituted this thing that you need to have your driver's license in order to watch, or you have to put a form of ID in.
Is that
so
true?
The real question for me is like, what is the?
Well,
that is. Is that true? Yeah.
No, obviously
I love how she's pulling that.
No, thank you for confirming that.
No, she has a VPN, so she wouldn't know that it's true. It's basically, if you don't have a VPN, then you need to provide a driver's license. But now everybody in Texas has VPNs as a result of this law. And I'm sure that all the teenagers are still spanking it to whatever.
great.
Very true.
But
Yeah.
I also do want to go back to something. So when you said, Freddie, when we're messaging, say so-and-so has a short report out, did you see it? We are not messaging with clients, and these are not official work communications. So yes,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
that is
So
true.
let's books and records this bitch
Yes.
up. We are fully compliant with that motherfucker.
That is true. That is true. I am messaging friends who are not in short selling to ask them what
No,
I
you
think
can message
about
friends
the
who are
report.
in short selling, but just not work contacts.
There are no friends in short
That's right.
selling.
Let's talk rates. Came into the year, everybody's jerking off and saying, "Oh, 4 rate cuts this year, blah blah blah." You tell us. You tell us how many rate cuts then.
Hold on. 3.
3. Yeah. Okay. Now justify that. Come on. Because at least when people talk about rate cuts,
Okay.
they at least have something to say.
All right, folks, strap yourselves in because we're going to be talking about why not just 1, not 2, but 3 rate cuts in 2024 might be the prescription for what ails the economy. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. 3 cuts? That sounds like a lot, Krista. But hold on, hear me out for 1 second. First off, let's talk about inflation. That's right, Freddie, inflation. Yes, it's been taken up, but it's hardly at runaway levels, right? However, we can't ignore the fact that there are some persistent upward pressures. By implementing a series of rate cuts, the Fed can proactively address these inflationary forces that ensure that they don't spiral out of control. Honestly, it's all about staying ahead of the curve. Secondly, let's talk about global headwinds. We're living in a world of uncertainty with trade tensions, geopolitical risks, you name it. By lowering rates not once, not twice, but thrice. That's right, Freddie, thrice. The Fed can provide a much-needed buffer against the external shocks. It's like building a sturdy ship to weather the storm. And let's not forget about the yield curve. Now, I'm not one to get bogged down in technicalities, but an inverted curve has historically been a reliable predictor of trouble ahead. I mean, by aggressively cutting rates, the Fed can flatten that curve and reduce risk of looming recession. I mean, is that true or not? It's kind of like being proactive and not reactive, which we have been. I know what some of you are thinking. Won't this encourage excessive risk-taking and asset bubbles, right? Well, there's always that risk, but the alternative is what? Doing nothing? Which is far more dangerous. You know that, Carson, it is. Sometimes we've got to be bold action to steer the ship away from the rocks. Anyway, so in conclusion, while 3 rate cuts might seem like a lot, they could be just what the doctor ordered to keep the economy on an even keel. Let's not wait until it's too late to take action. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
So that's
I don't know the
Muddy
time.
Waters' official rate forecast for the number of cuts in 2024.
I don't know where it comes from. It is like. I want to talk about Tiger Global VC fund closing at 63% below target. So, Freddie, was their target $6 billion? Is that correct?
It was a big number, honestly. It's unclear to me. I think the target when you're that good at raising money is always more.
Question for you. Is it the manager or their overall fundraising climate that's the problem here?
I'll be honest. I think that the whole point I really wanted to make here is actually just how mean journalists can be. Okay? Because let everyone remember that Chase Coleman is more successful than most fund management principals in the history of fund management.
Combined.
And he's having a little he's having a little bit of a rough go of it. But the headline could actually read, Chase Coleman raises $2.6 billion more than Muddy Waters did for, anything ever. So, I don't know, guys. I think Bloomberg should really get off the back of Chase Coleman and remember that he's fantastically wealthy. And, I think this is just a sign of the
I
times.
think he's a mighty fine man.
When you say that, Freddie, you overlook the fact that Mike Bloomberg can still buy and sell Chase Coleman many times.
I think I love Mike Bloomberg.
You do, Krista?
If you want to see an inverted penis.
I don't want it. I didn't send that. And I don't
I'm just telling you
that.
that's like as you get older, it gets closer and closer to inversion.
No, that's what I heard. So sorry.
Well, he's
Sorry,
got like a
Carson.
little bit of a rep, Mike Bloomberg, right? It kind of got a bit hushed up.
Well, if you
but,
ever had the displeasure of seeing Ron Jeremy in a porn movie, I mean, when I was watching porn as a teenager, like that dude was already, old, and yeah, that shit was like pointing straight down. I never got how that guy ended up in a porn movie.
Huh.
Dude, I bet you're pissed off now that you threw out all your VHS tapes because now we're in Austin. I mean, it's really pain with the VPNs.
Oh, well, I kept the DVDs.
Okay, I've just had the fucking best business idea ever, okay? It's Texas specific. Porn blockbuster for Texas.
That's right. We just card you at the door. We don't keep a record. That's right. Like it's not stored electronically. Just walk in and.
Question for you. This has Blockbuster. When did it evaporate? When did it like in the 90s?
We could set it up. We could set it up inside gun stores. Not that they check IDs to buy guns, but not in Texas anyway. But yeah, like that would be a good way to. I guess a good way to pair. No, I don't know. Maybe I think they do in Texas view gun stores as a little bit too much of a family-friendly place. So,
that's where I like to go with my family. Can we talk about California and the first state to give workers the right to ignore after-hours calls and emails from employees? First of all, so I looked into this a lot. This particular item. That's right, Carson Blah. Because when I first joined Muddy Waters, I was in California, correct?
I don't know.
So
were you?
I wanted to see.
Do you know where you were?
I mean, like, I wanted to see if it,
Okay. Let me ask you: would you like to continue paying taxes on your income to California? Because I think that's the ultimate test.
Oh. You know what?
Yeah, and you were
First
probably,
time you make some sense.
You were probably, California all in was probably hitting you with an additional 7-8% tax on your gross income or your adjusted gross income. So listen, if you're open to paying that, maybe you can ignore.
We pay her that much.
Ignore the.
I'm worth every fucking penny. So I looked into this. They can get fined if employers after 40 hours a week, whatever, after a certain amount of time a day, they could get fined $100.
Yeah. Okay. So you should also look up at-will employment.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay. So
Would you
hypothetically
like me
speaking,
to educate you?
if you wanted to pretend you're in California and pay California taxes, so, basically reduce your take-home income by, like I said, probably 7-8%. California still does have at-will employment. So I don't see myself paying a stupid fucking fine to the state of California. But I do see, layoffs.
But, okay, I know you say that, but I feel like they should not pay the $100 or whatever goes to, should go to the employee that's being assaulted.
Yeah, that's not how California works. No, that's not how they work.
Well, they should.
They use you as a pretext to grab more money from somebody who has it. Like, don't kid yourself.
All right, let's just keep on going. Israel versus Iran. I think Carson wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, look, because this is a
big one.
This is a big one to me because it's the start of what I hope will be a regular segment called Guys Who've Done Well in One Part of Life Thinking That They Know Everything About Another Part of Life and sharing that faux wisdom with everybody. So no better way to kick that segment off than with Israel versus Iran. All right. So my take, and again, I have no background in this, but my take is that Israel bombed the embassy there and assassinated those officers because it was trying to provoke Iran into an attack against it. The good thing about the crazy news cycle and I think Israel understood this, is that like a little attack that kills 7 people, it kind of made the papers, but a lot of people miss that in the maelstrom of the modern environment. So, but the Iranians, they obviously didn't miss it. And so then they have a domestic audience that they have to appease. They have to show strength domestically. They also have to show strength to the Sunni Arab, to the Sunni Muslim world, since they are basically trying to, trying to make the argument that, they are the ones who represent, the future of Islam and the vision of Islam. So they have to look strong in a counterattack. But the thing is, they don't want to draw the United States into a war against them. And, who else really doesn't want that? Russia sure as shit doesn't want that either, because, some of those Republicans in Congress who are pretending that aid to Ukraine is not somehow also against Iran's interests, that argument gets harder to, that becomes harder to pretend. So none of them, Russia, China, Iran, want to draw the U.S. in. So they don't really want to inflict damage on Israel, but they have to make it look like they're trying to inflict damage on Israel. So they telegraph this thing. So the U.S. Is sending out, I think, tweets on Friday, 48 hours in advance of the attack, talking about how ballistic missile launch from Iran is imminent. And so by numbers, the headline value of this is, blah 100 drones, blah 100 short-range ballistic missiles, and they were pretty much all intercepted. So I think from Iran's perspective, they can make the argument that, hey, we hit back with force, but because they ensured that any damage inflicted would be minimal, then it's tough for Israel to escalate and lead to something that'll draw the U.S. in. So in any event, look, the one thing is, feel free to drop this at like a cocktail party or something like that, but only if, my advice to you is only if you haven't heard anybody who actually does know what they're talking about discuss this.
So this is all valid, and this is actually why we are practicing the podcast remote this week. Because as Carson mentioned, he actually has no expertise in this. And if we are in fact wrong, probably a couple of episodes ago was the last time we'll ever all be able to be in the same room because of nuclear war. Yeah, it was, honestly, man, the whole thing was pretty weak. It was, I gotta tell you, like, Friday evening, I kind of felt the same way as when Ben Axler, like, tweets out that he's going to do a report the next day. That was kind of the feeling I got.
On a company that's taking advantage of children, which, what I hate is, when a guy who's just out there, like, slamming bids on the way into a stock, uses, like, harm to kids as the pretext, for him to write a report and, shed crocodile tears and shit like that. I mean, I don't know, bro. Weak sauce.
China flooding market with fake royal mail stamps. This is all you, Freddie.
So China has been flooding the UK with fake stamps. I thought this was really funny because technically a stamp is legal tender. So you can actually pay for things in stamps. It's pretty unconventional. And, I do think my understanding is like shops have to accept it if you come in with like reams and reams of stamps and like try and pay for a Coca-Cola. I think they do have to accept it. So China, in a different way to the way it fucks with the US Postal Service and how all those companies have that like egregious deal with the US Postal Service, is fucking with the UK Postal Service, but in a different way. So apparently what they've been doing is counterfeiting stamps. Now, it is in fact illegal to put a counterfeit stamp on something, and there are fines associated with it. And I think a lot of times when like people post stuff with these counterfeit stamps, stuff is getting posted back. So as much as China is like pretty good at kind of fucking with our financial markets and, has this like obscene deal in the US with the Postal Service, I think this is kind of like a subtle little dig. Like, I gotta say, like, it's kind of one of these things where you don't really take it seriously, but you're like, Yeah, that's pretty fucking
Well,
annoying.
I think you're missing the strategic brilliance of it, because this means that China has compromised the UK's communication networks all the way from the top at 5G down to the postal service. And you know what?
That's true.
Probably shortwave too. So I don't know, if you're in your bunker in the UK, you might not get this broadcast after all.
Now, the nice thing about this is I'm always chronically late sending like my mum birthday cards and stuff, and she's really into
That's so
getting like
surprising.
physical cards. So now I've got like a full-on excuse. I'm like, oh, Mum, I totally sent the thing, but must have been one of those fucking Chinese stamps. Yeah, really sorry about that.
It got opened in Beijing.
Yeah, it's not. It's not all bad.
My grandmother grew up very wealthy. She grew up like
Oh, you never told me about your grandmother. Okay.
So like her father had an apartment, apparently like floor below one of the Rockefellers in New York, and so she grew up very wealthy, and kind of stayed wealthy when she got married and all that. But she always used to, if she got something in the mail and the postmark hadn't completely covered the stamp, like if it kind of missed, she'd like sit there and snip the stamp out.
Wow.
I was fucked up. Like,
Well, I mean,
I
like,
don't know. Like, I just, yeah.
maybe
I
your
mean,
parents lost.
I didn't know.
Like,
I didn't know what to say about that.
There's no excuses.
Yeah, I mean, always had like every few years, brand new luxury car, house in Brentwood, like right around the corner from OJ. And sitting there in the kitchen, just like cutting out the stamp.
all right. Well, cheers to us. This was interesting, I think.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
and you know what? I'm actually going to be able to put my kids to bed. You guys really rallied. I'm proud of you, Freddie.
Cheers,
So,
guys.
what about me? It's an operation I've done. Not that you would note it.
Yeah.
Shut up, Freddie.
She's just gonna have to finish the
Fuck
bottle
you.
of wine.
Well, sometimes I finish it. Will
You
is
gonna
like,
take us out?
I
You
don't
gonna
word it.
you gonna do a proper outro or just sort of like fade to
Well,
black
what
here?
is a proper? I don't know what